When you look at the contract that Devon Toews signed, I wonder if Ryan Pulock gets something similar, not monetarily, obviously, because he's probably will get a lot more,
Yeah.
but the structure-wise, where they don't pay him as much the first couple of years to help them with the cap situation, kind of backloaded a little bit. That's always stuff that goes through GM's heads and behind the scenes that we don't necessarily know about. But another guy who is a free agent that Stefan has been adamant the Islanders should target is Anthony Duclair.
Hmm.
He's very versatile, very talented offensively, and he has played with John Gabriel Pajot before. So do you think he could be a factor on a third line and a defensive based system because he is very offensive minded?
Yeah. So that's another player that I've been, tooting the horn on. I think that Declare would be a really good fit here. I think he's an obvious choice. I don't want to say that there's a reason why some of these guys haven't signed yet, and some of the supposed signings that Lamoriello is working on haven't become official yet. Do I think that Declare is waiting for Lou Lamoriello? No. But do I think that at some point Lamoriello should and could approach him? I do. Declare is representing himself this offseason, and I think he oversold himself a little bit. I think he asked Ottawa for something like five million per year. I don't know the length of time on that contract that he asked for, but he did oversell himself a little bit. So, but a 23 goal scorer last year. He got an all-star nod. I wouldn't mind signing him for $1 million to $3 million a year. Give him a 1-year contract. See if it works out. He has the history with Pajot. He has a good relationship with Barzell. They formed a pretty good bond over at the All-Star game this past season. And he's fast. He's really fast. He came in last in the fastest skater competition, but I mean, come on, he was up against Barzell.
He's in the fastest skater, yeah.
Right, exactly. So he can keep up to pace with a guy like Barzell. So if they have to switch him off the third line and put him on the first line just to shake things up a little bit, they can do that. And I really think that Barzell would flourish with a guy who has a nose for the net, shoot first mentality. They don't really have that right now. Anders Lee is a great winger, don't get me wrong, but his mentality is get to the front of the net, score the dirty goal. I don't know what's up with Jordan Eberle. He decides to show up when he feels like it. Hopefully that it isn't the way it is this year. But he's a slow starter, and I think that has a lot to do with the reason why he was slow in the postseason too. They were off a couple months. They come back, and again another slow start. So I think Duclair would be a great fit if they can make the money work. It's going to be tough, but we'll see what happens. I think they can make it happen. You might have to end up moving a guy like maybe Thomas Hickey, but when you start moving all these defensemen, it gets tricky. You have to keep in the back of your mind that the Seattle expansion's on its way.
Yep, definitely. And the one interesting thing about Duclair coming to the Islanders is Barry Trotz is very defensive minded. We saw how much Duclair struggled when he was playing with Tortorella, who's a similar type of mindset. But I do feel like Trotz has a personality that the players attach onto a lot easier than that of Tortorella. So as long as Duclair can stay out of Trotz's doghouse, I think that would actually be a very good fit.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Trotz and Tortorella are two completely different people. Tortorella is scream at you until you do it right, and Trotz just really knows how to get through to guys. So another reason why I think like a guy like Duclair would be a really good fit, or even, and I'll keep beating this drum, an in-house guy like Josh Ho-Sang. There's nothing wrong with trying out these guys, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you put out on the ice. Barry Trotz is behind the bench, and he just knows how to get it done. He knows how to get these guys, everything out of them. Look at Brock Nelson. He's flourished. He's done really well. Look at Beauvillier. He's really coming into his own. Barry Trotz knows what he's doing. He knows how to get everything out of these guys, and it really it doesn't matter, but it would help to get a 23 goal scorer in Anthony Duclair, or what I think is top six, possibly elite offensive material in Josh Ho-Sang.
Really high on Josh Ho-Sang. I love it. When you look at the top line for Islanders, obviously Eberle struggles. Lee played solid in the playoffs, but like you said, he's a guy that crashes the net, that dirty goal. If you could get let's say a guy like Hoffman or line, which is really going to be hard to do, are you more willing to see Lee drop down to maybe a second or third? Because you don't really want to separate that second line. That second line was so good. So you're thinking that if Lee goes down, it'd probably be third line. I mean, that's the only thing I think of. Or are you more willing to move Eberle, given if he continues to struggle like he did in the bubble?
I think that Barzell and Eberle have a really good back and forth. They have good chemistry, really, really good passes, tape to tape. I think you have to keep Eberle with Barzell. I think eventually And I know he's 30 years old, and you can't really teach an old dog new tricks. But I think eventually he's gonna come into it where once they figure out that top line and gain that full chemistry, I think he'll be fine on that top line. We started to see some flashes of brilliance out of him the deeper they got into the postseason. He was snake bitten a little bit, some bad luck, and he was the victim of some unfortunate opportunities. But you got to keep Eberle there, in my opinion. Now, on the flip side, Anders Lee, again, he's probably going to go down as one of the best captains in Islander history, in my opinion. But he would absolutely benefit from less minutes on the ice. It's the type of game he plays. He bangs bodies. He gets to the front of the net. He scores the dirty goals. So if he's not out there for 17, 18, 19 minutes a night, and he's out there for, say, 13, 14, 15 minutes a night on the third line, I think you'll start to see an uptick in his production because he's not banging the body out, on the ice so much, and he'll get fresher legs every shift. So I think that he would benefit from a third line role if the Islanders could acquire a first line winger.
You said you can't teach old dog new tricks, but for Eberle, that backhand moves he has to have more moves in his arsenal than the backhand. Because I feel like he was nervous to shoot on the forehand because he was either missing the net or shooting it into the chest. And if I was playing defense, I'm closing my eyes and just poke checking the backhand move because I know it's coming. What did you think about that? Because I feel like every time he went to do that move, it was stopped. You think he's more nervous about not ripping it with the forehand?
He definitely likes to do it, and when he does it, it's pretty. You can't lie.
Oh yeah,
when he gets it off, you're like, wow, that was some goal. That was the highlight of his career when he started with Edmonton. That's
that first career goal.
It was unreal. Yeah. But when guys get into slumps like that, they start gripping the stick a little tighter. They start overthinking their game a little bit. So he probably was doing that in the playoffs. And listen, these guys are on social media. They see what the fans are saying. They see what people are saying. So, he's human, and he probably, got internalized a little bit, was thinking too much. And like I said, gripped the stick a little too tight and kept trying to do the same thing over and over until it worked. But, he has a great shot. He has a very good accuracy, and he has a hard shot. So he just needs to know, hey, shoot that puck, try not to make the pretty move, get the puck to the net, and the goals will come. So, he's definitely got to cut down on that pretty play a little bit and just start getting that puck to the net.
Yeah, so obviously we have to see what happens with Pulock, though. For Barzal, though, do you think we could see a bridge deal here, or even a shorter-term deal, taking less money for Lou Lamoriello to bring in someone to play alongside him? Because I know Barzal thinks in his head that I would love an elite winger with me. And do you think how much do you think that really comes into consideration when Barzal is thinking about, okay, I want to settle for this or do this, all that kind of stuff?
It's going to be interesting. When you look at, and he should be looking at too, you look at teams like, and this isn't a dig, but when you look at teams like Toronto and you see the bloated contracts and, you see the kind of production they've had, making the playoffs, getting knocked out in the first round. When you bloat contracts like that on a small amount of players, the team you build around, those players is not that supportive. So he should go into this knowing that he needs to, yes, get paid, but at the same time, if he wants to win, he's got to know that the cap is flat, and there's not much money to spend here. So I totally see a bridge deal coming. My guess is 3x7. I think that's fair for him, just because he might want Mitch Marner money. He might want Austin Matthews money, but he hasn't scored 40 goals. He hasn't put up 90 points. So, he could probably counter that with I play Barry Trotz's defense, and that's true. But in terms of his production, he has taken some bad penalties. He has shown a little bit of inconsistency in his own end. Don't get me wrong; when he's on, but there has been a little bit of sloppy play in the defensive end. So once he starts getting more points, maybe back to that rookie year production, 82 points, 85 points, he could ask for that after the bridge. Hopefully the cap will be, back up again. I think it was projected before the pandemic to go up to something like 86, 88 million a year. Yep. So if they get back to that, I could see that happening. But for right now, I think that he needs to, prove himself. And, that's on the Islanders organization as well. They need to go out and acquire a top line guy for him to play with. And maybe that 3 years, he gives them that time, and, we'll see what happens. He'll still be an RFA. And I think that's the goal, to get him that 3-year deal and keep him as an RFA, but also make a little bit of money. So I'm going with 3x7.
Yeah, I just don't want to see what happened with Tavares, where it was pretty much the Tavares show. When he was on, the team wins, and when he was off, the team loses, and he never had a winger alongside him to really. I mean, he had good years with Matt Molson, and then but they weren't top players. He just made those players better. It's like Connor McDavid and Zach Kassian. Zach Kassian isn't this elite superstar scorer. He's just getting fed from Connor McDavid, which makes you look real good. So hopefully, the Islanders could bring something in. Last question for me is, we saw with the Rangers and Igor Shesterkin needing some time in the AHL before making that jump and becoming a dominant goaltender at the NHL level. I personally believe that Sorokin's got to start at the NHL level. No ifs, ands, or buts. He has to. He'll split with Varlamov till he's comfortable, though. But do you think that he's going to need an adjustment period, even though he's been practicing with the team in the bubble and the playoffs and all that stuff?
I don't. I think that, he's had enough time off at this point to consistently work with the goalie gurus in Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn. So I think that he'll have a long enough adjustment period, from getting here in the summer till, hopefully January 1 when we start. I'm not biased by any means. I am a fan, but I try to write from a professional perspective. And just reading up on, some KHL reports, some reporters like Jillian Kamara and all, they do a lot of comparisons between Sorokin, Shesterkin, all these Russian guys who are coming over. And you do see a lot of the same narrative that Sorokin, of this group of young goaltenders coming over, he just might be the best of the bunch.
Yeah,
we saw it. Yeah, we saw it with Rob Reese. He said it this week, I think, on his podcast. She wrote it, Jillian Kamara, the KHL reporter, in an article herself. She said, if you think Shesterkin's good, watch out for Sorokin. So I think Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn will have him ready. And he's on a 1-year contract, so you have to see what you got with the kid, just because you need to know what the future is going to look like with him. And I think they have a good idea. I think they know that they are going to sign him to a lengthy extension. I can't tell you how much yet. We'll have to see how
hopefully not DiPietro worth just yet.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why that rule is intact now. They don't do that anymore. But we'll see where it goes. But I think that he will have maybe the first 5 games, 10 games will be an adjustment for him. But and then once the season's underway and they'll hit the ground running, I think he'll be just fine. It's likely, in my opinion, to be a condensed schedule, so he'll get a plethora of starts. Probably a lot of back-to-backs. There's a good chance you'll see a 60-40 split between him and Varlamov, with Varlamov getting the 60% there.
Well, James, thank you so much for joining us. This is great conversations. You're a great writer. We'll look forward to seeing the rest of the articles you put out there.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me.